Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss the 2022 version of Scream. Not Scream 5, but the 2022 version of Scream. I wish it was called Scream 5. Starring Melissa Barrera, Marley Shelton, Jenna Ortega, Dylan Minnette, Jack Quaid, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Sonia Amar, Mikey Madison, Mason Gooding, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and Nev Campbell, directed by Matt Bettinelli Olpin and Tyler Gillett. I don't know if I said that right. Please forgive me. Who is also responsible for the movie called Ready or Not, which I actually did enjoy that film, to be honest. And is this any better? Well, let's get into it, and we'll see how it compares to the original. A phone call occurs at Tara Carpenter's house, and Tara is played by Jenna Ortega, while texter Amber Freeman, played by Mikey Madison, and she picks up, and it's a man named Charlie, as it's really the Ghostface killer, as he keeps going and asks what her favorite scary movie is, as she says Babadook, because it's elevated horror. And because she was texting Amber, I swear to God, I thought she was the killer, Amber, I'm talking about, on the phone. As this entire fucking movie, as she says it's not her, but I'm not buying it. Ghostface Killer plays a trivia game of the original Stab, as she gets all the questions but the last one right, but the last one she gets wrong. And I'm thinking Amber is up to something, and she has an accomplice, but who is it is an interesting question. Tara fights off against Ghostface and gets stabbed multiple times and cut in the stomach. And I thought she was killed in the first viewing of this movie. And this opening kill, well, not kill per se, but attack, I'll say, is funny, but at the same time brutal of how he kicks her in the leg. In Modesto, California, Tara's sister Sam, played by Melissa Barrera, gets a call from Wes Hicks, played by let me see if I'm saying this right, Dylan Minnette, about Tara's attack, and she goes on with Richie Kirsch, who's played by Dennis Quaid's son Jack Quaid, to Woodsboro to visit Tara, as well as Amber, Wes, twins Mindy and Jasmine Savoy Brown, played by Jasmine Savoy Brown, and Chad, played by Cuba Gooding Jr.'s son Mason Gooding, and Liz, played by Sonia Amar, at the hospital, while Liz has a stalker named Vince Schneider, who's played by Kyle Gallner, who was in the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, who gets at them at the bar, and while Sam and Richie are staying at the hospital to keep Tara company. And Sam as the new protagonist is an interesting choice, as the characters are pretty fucking preposterous. Sam gets attacked at the hospital while Richie watches Netflix, and afterhand, Sheriff Judy Hicks, played by Marley Shelton, not deputy this time, but sheriff, whose son is Wes, and Sam explains why she left Tara 5 years ago, and it's because she found out Billy Loomis, returned by Skeet Ulrich, is her father, and this scene for dramatic purposes, is fine, but not the greatest, but as so far, I'm entertained. Sam and Richie go to the house of Dewey Riley, returned by David Arquette, while watching Gail Weathers, returned by Courtney Cox, on the TV, while Dewey explains the rules of surviving Ghostface and figuring out who the killer is. Well, my money is on Amber, but I don't know who the accomplice is yet. After the meeting with Sam and Richie, Dewey calls Sidney Prescott, returned by Nev Campbell, and sends Gail a text involving Ghostface's return, and I'm glad to see them back in this movie in particular. Meanwhile, Sam and Richie go to the friends and the twins, I'll say, and Dewey joins them, and Martha, who happens to be Mindy and Chad's mother and Randy's brother in this requel, while we're learning about a requel, which is a sequel that makes the previous movies never exist, as they all blame Sam for being the killer, as her father was, as she leaves the house and goes off on her own, as the first rule is never split up, and she gets moody, which makes perfect sense as far as the requel thing is concerned. Judy orders sushi for dinner and gets a call from Ghostface and learns Wes is in trouble while in the shower, like in Psycho, which is a funny callback. And as she gets home, Judy is killed on the porch in broad daylight, which is pretty fucking stupid for him, the Ghostface, I mean. As Wes gets out of the shower, and I thought, oh, this motherfucker is dead. And this is the point of the movie. when in the movie where I was going, oh, this motherfucker's dead. That motherfucker's dead. I mean, it's that obvious. He locks the door, the front door. Ghostface is inside and kills Wes. And my theory was correct for doing stupid things left to right. Sam goes to Wes's house as she learns he's dead, and Gail is here to see, and she sees Dewey as she learns with the audience that he had no choice but to retire while talking with him. And Sam finds out Tara has no protection, and Dewey comes with her to the hospital, while Tara goes to the hospital bed because she has no protection and the lights go off. What the fuck? And what the fuck was Sheriff Judy and her deputies thinking of leaving Tara in a dark hospital is beyond me. And Judy and Wes's death, as I didn't really care for them at this point. Richie shows up at the hospital and gets briefly injured by Ghostface, and gets a call from Sam as Ghostface picks up and makes her choice between Tara and Richie as they stall for time, and Ghostface hides and suddenly attacks Dewey and saves both Tara and Richie with Sam as he realizes he has to shoot the killer in the head, and he goes for it, and Ghostface kills Dewey, and that shocked the hell out of me when I first saw this movie. I mean, I was shocked to death. While Gail was crying for him and goes to the waiting room at the hospital, Sam tells Gail how sorry she is about Dewey, and so does Sydney, who said in the beginning of the movie that she has no intention of coming back to Woodsboro, but she comes as soon as she heard about Dewey's death. While Tara is awake and Sam visits her, and next thing you know, Sydney wants to talk with Sam and about how it follows them in the future, and they get the fuck out of that town until Tara leaves a hailer at Amber's house, or tracker, I'll say, which happens to be Stu's address from the first movie, and as Amber goes downstairs with no lights on, but a flashlight on her phone, and I thought, oh, that bitch is dead, until Mindy scares the shit out of her and tests Amber, which was rather humorous, and this party scene is fun to watch, while Chad offends Liv, and by assuming she's the killer, and briefly breaks up with him while he and Mindy watch the first stab, and he goes outside to find Liv behind the bushes, and Ghostface stabs Chad in the leg, and he hides on the side of a house and gets killed by Ghostface, and Sam, Tara, and Richie arrive at the house and kick everyone out of the house, and Mindy is on the couch while Liv scares the crap out of her, and Sydney and Gail warn Sam about being in Stu's house while Mindy is not killed, not looking back until last minute, and everyone is in the room as Amber is one of the killers as she shoots Liv, and Sam and Richie hide from her while Tara is locked up somewhere, and Sydney and Gail arrive, and Amber shoots Gail in the stomach, and from the beginning of the movie, I knew Amber was the killer the whole time, as she looked like a suspect from the first scene and the rest of this movie, as this is an entertaining movie as a murder slasher movie, but damn, I knew that bitch had something up with her. Sam finds Tara locked up holding a knife, leading to believe Tara is the killer when I don't think that's true. And not only Amber is under the Ghostface mask, but Richie stabs Sam in the stomach, wanting to kill her as the third act of their own movie, and they trap Sam, Sydney, and Gail in monologue about why they're doing it in the first place. Sydney tries to escape, but she gets stabbed in the stomach, while everyone says fuck you in this final act quite a few times, as it got annoying after a while, and Amber is knocked down by Tara, and Sam goes to where Tara is at, and Sydney and Gail fight off Amber, and Sydney turns on the stove as Gail shoots Amber and mocks her and makes her burn to death, while Sam fights off Richie as she stabs him and says never fuck with the daughter of a serial killer, and stabs him and slits his throat and shoots both Richie and Amber as the movie ends with the paramedics taking Tara and Sam to the hospital, asking a question to Sydney about will she be okay, and she says, and eventually. And the climax is fun, as the movie is fine at best. I did like the end, at the end, it said, for Wes, as it was dedicated to Wes Craven, because now he dead, maybe, may he rest in peace, I'll say. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 5.8 out of 10. The movie was fine as it was entertaining from start to finish, as the dialogue is corny to death and it was laughable at times. I like the introduction of a requel, as it makes sense for this movie and the 2018 Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis. And which is the better movie, in my opinion? Well, obviously the 2018 Halloween film, but I'm glad to see the three main characters being in this movie, despite Dewey dies by the end of the movie, which shocked me half to death. The movie was a fun time as it could have ended, but nope. Rumor has it there's going to be a sixth part next year. As I'm thinking, oh boy, they should leave it alone as it is. But we'll see in a few years, and if Halloween ends coming in October for the show to show the whole world. And I'll tell you about how I feel about Halloween Kills the week before Halloween Ends comes out. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for Scream 2022 in this whole series. And until next year, what's your favorite scary movie?